watch is often blurred. However, when you come to Guangzhou, you cannot see any problems just by looking at the appearance. What you need to be careful about is that the low quality movement inside will be sold at a high price.
My suggestion is you can try it first or buy it for a legal way. I'm Sean. See you next time.
95% of the world's watches are made here, including the one you're wearing right now. Many big brand watches are produced or sourced for parts from here. This place is Shenzhen City, the world watch capital city. And in Shenzhen, you must not miss this factory.
All right, let's keep it real for a second. Where are these so-called luxury watches really coming from? Like, are those $20,000 Rolexes flexing on wrists actually made by some expert in a quiet little Swiss village? Or did they secretly start off life in some massive neon-lit factory in China, lined up next to thousands of clones, pumped out like sneakers on a belt? Because the way Chinese factories are pulling back the curtain on the luxury watch game, it's wild. The rumors, oh, they're no longer whispers, they're full-blown confessions now. TikTok's blowing up with unboxings that straight up call out the game, and certain factories in Shenzhen, yeah, they're done staying silent. So what's getting spilled? China's out here brewing up some scalding hot truth, and this time the Swiss can't just charm their way out of it. It's gotten loud. It's gotten messy. And let's be real, it's gotten embarrassing. Rolex even had to announce a major price drop on some of their so-called elite pieces, and people are losing it. But before we dig into the juicy proof, the receipts, the drama, the slick tricks behind the scenes, we gotta rewind and look at where this mess really began. Let's rewind real quick and clear up a major myth. Everybody thinks the watch capital of the world is Switzerland, but plot twist, it's not. Think about it. You probably grew up thinking the finest watches had to come from the Swiss Alps, right? Snowy peaks, dudes in lab coats with tiny tools and magnifying glasses, crafting each Rolex by hand like it's some sacred ritual. Sounds cute, but it's giving fairy tale. Now here's the truth bomb. Welcome to Shenzhen, China, the real watch capital of the world. No joke, over 95% of all watches on this planet made in China. And a massive piece of that pie is pumped out straight from Shenzhen. We're talking big time production, not back alley fakes. And don't get it twisted, this ain't just knockoff territory. We're talking top tier components, luxury grade dials, detailed bracelets, sapphire glass, ceramic bezels, the real deal. These factories are cranking out high-end parts on a level that Switzerland could never even dream of matching. And now here's where things really start heating up. Some of these Shenzhen factories are out here making components for the big dogs, Omega, Tag Heuer, Tissot, and maybe even Rolex. Yeah, let that sink in. And no, we're not talking about those cheap fake Raleighs from the swap meet. These ain't your $30 flea market specials. These are real deal parts, possibly made on the exact same machines as the official ones, just minus the Swiss stamp of approval. Now here's the wildest part. These factories, they're not hiding it anymore. They're out here flexing, loud and proud. Some are even letting regular folks place custom orders like it's no big deal. Yep, you can now skip the fancy boutique and go straight to the source for your next luxury watch. Just DM a factory, send the specs, and boom, they'll build it for you. But this opens up a big fat question. If your luxury watch is built in China, why does the dial say Swiss made? Well, that answer, it's buried in one of the slickest, most low-key loopholes the fashion world's ever pulled off. That tiny little Swiss made label, the one that screams elegance, wealth, and prestige? Yeah, it's not what it seems. And let's break down that Swiss made label, because it does not mean what you think it means. Despite what the luxury brands want you to believe, Swiss made doesn't mean the whole watch was crafted in some snowy Swiss workshop. Nope. According to Swiss law, a watch only needs 60% of its value, not the actual physical product, to be created in Switzerland to legally wear that label. Yup, you heard that right. Just 60% of the value, not 60% of the watch itself. So what even counts as value? Get this: marketing costs, branding expenses, research teams, sipping coffee in Zurich, or literally just dropping the movement into the case once it's already arrived from China. That's enough to slap on that fancy Swiss-made badge. Picture this. A factory in Shenzhen fully assembles an Omega-style case, bracelet, dial, everything. They box it up and ship it out. Then some guy in Switzerland opens it, pops in the movement, buffs the surface, and boom, it's Swiss-made. That's the whole trick. So when you drop $6,000 on that luxury piece, you're mostly buying a watch built in China with a Swiss-approved finishing touch and a mega marketing glow-up and all that glitz. It's coming from that Swiss branding machine. That 5-figure price tag, yeah, it hits different when you know what's really going on. And don't get it twisted, this game ain't new. The whole luxury world's been playing it for years. It started bubbling up on Reddit threads, then it exploded on TikTok, and now it's turning into a full-blown real-life crime doc. Former insiders are stepping up and spilling everything, and what they're saying is straight up insane. One guy claimed he used to work for a major Swiss watch brand, big name, said he got fired just for asking too many questions. He was doing work on vintage watches from the 1970s, thinking he was handling pure Swiss craftsmanship, but what he found, way different. He said even back then a ton of the parts were coming from Asia, and he didn't just talk, he dropped receipts. Real photos of watch bracelets, hands, and dials all stamped out in China. As for the movements, sometimes they were Swiss, but other times, just a basic $5 quartz piece slapped in at the last second to seal the deal. That's what folks were buying as luxury. So yeah, this scandal runs deep, like way deeper than most people even realize. And you're probably wondering, wait, how come the media hasn't blown the lid off this yet? Simple answer, money talks. The luxury watch games got serious cash, and the media, they're not trying to mess up the bag. Big magazines rake in millions in ad money from brands like Rolex, Omega, and Cartier. You really think they're gonna bite the hand that keeps their pages shining? No chance. And don't even get started on the watch bloggers, it's even messier there. A lot of them are getting flown out to Basel World, gifted watches, treated like royalty at brand dinners. They're being pampered to stay quiet and keep the vibe elegant. Influencers, paid to post smiles, not truth. No one's about to risk losing their next free Rolex just to spill the tea. That's why it's down to the underdogs now. Independent YouTubers like Misty, bold TikTokers, and even anonymous factory workers. They're the ones pulling the curtain back and letting folks see what's really going on in this luxury illusion. And guess what? After years of acting all untouchable, Rolex finally blinked. They dropped prices. Quietly, not across the whole lineup, but just enough to make people stop and say, wait, y'all good? So here's where it gets real juicy. Reports from deep inside watch forums and trusted luxury dealers say that some Rolex models quietly took a hit, up to 20% price drops in certain markets. And not just any models either. We're talking heavy hitters like the Submariner, the GMT Master 2, and even some Oyster Perpetuals, pieces that were way too hot in the replica world. But don't get it twisted. Rolex didn't shout this from the rooftops. You'll never see a Rolex sale banner. That's just not their style. Nah, they played it slick. These cuts went down subtly under the radar, only through select authorized dealers and only in certain spots. But the real ones, the folks who track this stuff day and night, they caught on quick. And the timing couldn't be more suspicious. These adjustments came right after that viral Chinese expose started making noise. The ones showing Rolex-style cases and bezels being boxed up by the truckload in a massive warehouse out in Dongguan. And let's be real, luxury brands don't drop prices without a serious reason, especially not Rolex. Their entire brand is built on that exclusive, rare, can't touch this energy. So for them to make a quiet move like this in the middle of a supply chain scandal, that's not just strategy, that's panic mode. Rolex is low-key panicking because the whole luxury game is built on one big illusion. Make it feel rare, untouchable, and just out of reach. That mystery, that chase, that's what makes people drop stacks. But now, that veil's been ripped off and folks are skipping the showroom and going straight to the source. We're talking private Telegram groups, WeChat circles, WhatsApp deals. The whole underground scene is wide open. Entire watch factories are out here selling luxury style builds, customized and crafted for a fraction of what you'd pay in a boutique. And here's the kicker. They're not even calling them replicas anymore. Now it's all coded. Factory, B grade, homage, parallel build, same line release, or unbranded OEM, which stands for original equipment manufacturer. Translation? Yeah, we made this, but we can't say we made it for Rolex. That's the game. It's giving DHgate vibes, but way more elite. One whistleblower even claimed that some Chinese suppliers get leftover materials from legit Rolex orders, and instead of trashing the extras, they finish the watches off and sell them on the low. Not fake, not dupes, just the same exact watch, minus the final Rolex stamp. All right, let's clear something up real quick. When we talk luxury watch profits, especially the big dogs like Swatch Group, Richemont, and LVMH, their margins usually hover between 10% to 20%. So yeah, they're making money, but it's not full-blown billionaire villain status yet. But now let's line that up with the real monsters, tech and pharma. Apple, sitting cozy at 32%. Microsoft, flexing with a wild 38%. And Novo Nordisk, the crew behind Ozempic, an insane 39% margin. So suddenly, that $15,000 Rolex doesn't seem quite as out of pocket, huh? But hold up, don't go handing Rolex a sympathy card just yet, because trust, they're still eating good, like really eating. And here's where it gets sneaky. Rolex, they're not just private, they're a nonprofit foundation. Yep, plot twist. That's why they don't have to share financial reports like other companies. Everything's wrapped up tight behind closed doors. So while tech giants are straight up printing money, Rolex is swimming in cash too, just without the cartoon villain energy. They're not stroking white cats in a Swiss castle that we know of, but don't let that fool you. These watchmakers are wealthy, just not diabolical billionaire level. But all of this brings us to the real question that's got everyone talking. So here's the $1 million question. How much does it actually cost to make one of these luxury watches? Let's break it down. That shiny $6,000 watch on display, industry insiders say the real cost to make it might be somewhere between $1,200 to $1,500. That's right, less than 25% of what you're paying. The rest, that's markup, dealer cuts, prestige tax, all part of the luxury illusion. Some brands even jack up their prices on purpose just to keep that exclusive vibe alive. Yeah, they're playing the psychology game heavy. Now, not every brand's out here finessing at the same level. Christopher Ward, a British brand, actually came clean. They said they never charge more than 3 times the production cost. Respect. Omega, around 4x. But Rolex, most experts believe it's more like 5x or even more depending on the model. So what are you really paying for? Not just the watch, you're buying into the brand, the hype, the aura, the whole machine running behind it. And here's the twist. Not everything that looks expensive actually is. That slick $60 Rolex from a shadowy Telegram plug, it might just pass on a quick Instagram flex. It hits under soft lighting. Just don't let anyone zoom in too close. But let's not kid ourselves. Once you crack open one of those knockoffs, the truth hits hard. The inside of that luxury piece, it's giving Dollar Tree with delusions of grandeur. No shade to the budget crew or the DHgate collectors, do your thing, but we gotta call it what it is. Replicas cut corners like it's a sport. That movement inside, usually some random factory-made piece that ticks loud, wrong, and awkward, nowhere near the smooth glide of a real automatic watch. Water resistance, non-existent. Some of these fakes fog up just from a little humidity. And the metal, super cheap alloy that'll scratch if you even think about flexing too hard. Try blinging under sunlight and that shine disappears fast. The lume barely lights up, the weight feels off, and the finishing. Please, this thing didn't even see Switzerland on Google Maps, let alone get hand polished in a Swiss workshop. But all that brings us to the real question, the one everyone ends up asking after falling into this luxury watch rabbit hole. Are luxury watches really overpriced? All right, so is it overpriced? The truth? It's complicated, so let's break it all the way down. If you walk in thinking you're buying pure craftsmanship, cutting edge tech, and centuries of tradition, you might be setting yourself up for a letdown, because not every watch is some handcrafted engineering marvel like the ads would have you believe. Some brands are just slapping together pre-made parts, doubling the price, and letting the logo do all the heavy lifting. That's the real hustle, and this is a big but, If you know what you're actually paying for, it hits different. You're not just buying steel and glass, you're buying access, you're buying a seat at the luxury table. That illusion, that flex, that feeling of walking into a room and having people notice what's sitting on your wrist. For some, that moment is everything. So is it overpriced? Technically, yeah. But emotionally, that depends on you, how it makes you feel. Once you really understand the truth behind the price tag, you get to decide if it's worth it. And that right there, that's the real power. Not the watch, not the brand, of you. Now I gotta hear from you. What do you think? So let's really get into it. Do you think Rolex is actually trying to be more accessible, or are they just shook now that folks are waking up to how the pricing game really works? Would you still scoop a Rolex now that prices are allegedly dipping, or is the whole luxury illusion finally starting to fall apart? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think, because the tea only gets hotter when y'all jump in. And if you love a good expose and live for the high-end drama, smash that like button. Go ahead and hit subscribe for more luxury truths, celeb mess, and behind-the-scenes chaos. And don't forget to tap that notification bell so you never miss the next time we spill it all.